Okay, let's try one that has a few more factors to it now. We're going to try the fraction 24/32. And we're going to do it in all three methods. And we're going to do it fairly quickly, but at any point you need to review it or pause, feel free to do that. We're going to start with the T-chart. And with the T-chart, get it into focus here. There we go. With the T-chart, again, I'm taking 24 and I'm finding all of the factors of 24. Taking 32, I'm listing all the factors. Remember, keep them organized. I'm just going to keep saying that. And then look for the largest factor they have in common. In this case, that large factor is 8. Now, you'll notice they also have 4 in common. They also have 2. And while you could reduce the fraction or simplify it with 2 and with 4, all that will do is cause you to have to do it again because that's not going to get you to the smallest value. In this case, we want the greatest common factor, which is 8. 24 divided by 8 is 3. 32 divided by 8 is 4. And we end up with the fraction 3/4. Remembering, whatever I did to one, numerator or denominator, I had to do to the other. So that's step one. That's the T-chart, which a lot of the kids prefer that T-chart. But again, it is a matter of staying very organized. If you just start guessing at numbers and throwing them out and you don't start at one and work your way through the process, you're going to get lost, you're going to get confused, and you're not guaranteed to find the greatest common factor. You need to work through them completely. Second option, prime factorization. Now, prime factorization really is a pretty solid way of finding the greatest common factor. It's a good way of doing it. I think some people, because of the size of it, get a little lost in it maybe, or a little concerned that they're not doing it right. But once you get competent at it, once you get a lot of practice at it, prime factorization actually works very well. What we did for 24, I said, okay, 24 is 2 times 12. Brought the 2 down, because that's prime. I don't have to touch it now. 12 is 2 times 6. Now I'm going to bring this 2 and this 2 down. 6 is 2 times 3, and that gives me that final problem, 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. That allows me to say then 2 to the third power times 3 is as the final group of factors. You remember, you should always be able to multiply those back and get the number you started with. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 3 is 24. For 32, we do the same. The difference here is 32 has a lot of 2's. You're going to be tracking a lot down here. And when you get to the bottom, it actually ends up with 5 2's, so 2 to the 5th power. But remember, for greatest common factor, we're just looking for the ones they had in common. So if you notice, I crossed out one set of 2's right here, along with this 2. That's my first 2. I saw, oh, they have another 2 in common. There's the one there and the one there. There's a second 2. They have a third 2 in common there and there. There's a third 2 I can multiply. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. They didn't have anything else in common as far as prime factors. There's that 8 again, so I divide by 8, denominator and numerator, and again I get 3/4. You can do this with any fraction. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, last one. Now, what you can do here is take those numbers that we gathered for the prime factors of 24 and 32. Remember, with 24, we had the 3 2's and the 3. And for 32, we had the 5 2's. Well, if you take those and write them on the numerator line for the 24 and on the denominator line for the 32, all we do now is any of them they have in common, we're going to cross out. So again, if I have a 2 in common, I'm going to cross it out. Now, crossing it out is really, in this case, dividing. I'm saying the 2 in the numerator can be divided by the 2 that's below it in the denominator. So really, this 2 is being divided by this 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So what we're really changing these two are 1's, not 0. This 2 and this 2 can be divided by each other, as can this one and this one. So if you really look at it, what we've done And we'll put little X's through them so we make sure that we see they're gone. And if we really want to think of them as being ones now, what we're left with should give us the simplest form. If we think of all these as ones, and 1 times 1 is 1 times 1 is 1, because of that identity property, if you look at this top here, 1 times 1 is 1 times 1 is 1, and you really don't have to worry about that as long as you have numbers up here that are not crossed out. In that case, it's the 3. So I right away realized, okay, my numerator is going to be 3. Had there been a second number there, I would have had to have multiplied by it, as I will have to in the denominator, because if you look at the denominator, we'll get it on the screen there for you, this 2 and this 2 had no matching pair up here. So they couldn't, you know, if you want to think of it as knocking each other out of the equation, you can. But really, they had no matched pair in the numerator, so we're just going to multiply them together. 2 times 2 is 4. And once again, we end up with our fraction 3/4. All right? All right. Well, the kids had an assignment on this, so hopefully that will help. They were told to use any of the 3 they wanted. I just right now want to make sure they can find simplest form. So I hope this has helped. And maybe it's been a few years since you've actually had to reduce a fraction, so hopefully this will kind of spark a little and go, oh yeah, I remember doing that. Have a great evening, and I'll see you later.